like most Indians, Amul communication has completely, totally fascinated me. To the extent which Rahul discovered, I love a lot of Amul advertising, but if they don't do a good job, I get very angry with it. You know, I get very angry, and Rahul and I had fights on Facebook, and then a little while later we go to the phone, and then everybody calms down. But I get really, really upset. So, you know, I've seen a lot of ad agencies. I've seen a lot of the ad agency business. But the sheer volumes of ads that daCunhal creates for Amul is totally frightening. So what we're going to do is to show you an AV which shows a kind of creation of an Amul topical. So we're going to see that, then Rahul and I will have a chat about why he can't take a holiday, because of all of you. This work started at 11:30 in the morning. By 3:30, the art was over. By about 4 o'clock, the line was put in. And by the next evening, it was on hoardings across the country. And not quite across the country. So that's a wonderful lesson that we will learn. What I'm going to explore in the conversation with Rahul, which will shock most of you, is the volume, the speed, and the process of creating communications for Amul. Yeah. Now I'll join Rahul.
Yes.
And he's invisible except for today. Nobody knows what he looks like. You know an Amul girl. This is the Amul boy. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Hi. Hi.
Why Rahul daCunhA can't take a holiday. And probably the topic is not quite right. It was perfect. It was completely true about 15 years ago. So this ad normally would have been created by 3 key people, one in Borivali, one in Bandra,
Yeah. One
And-
Borivali, one Bandra, and one
Depending on where he is.
where he is.
Yeah, so this particular ad was created by two in Nariman Point, one in Tokyo.
Yeah.
One was holidaying in Tokyo. So they use digital as much as they can. And that's it. That's 3 people create all these ads, by and large. I'm not saying only 3, there are still others. But by and large, it's 3 people who create these ads. And the reason he couldn't take a holiday, because he didn't know when the next ad would have to be written or conceptualized, because they built a reputation for being on the news curve. And he couldn't take a holiday. Now he can. So Rahul, how many ads do you do in a year?
So we do 5 a week.
Do the math now, 5 a week, yeah? But no,
That's why no holiday. Oh, that's why no stress-free holiday.
yeah, no stress-free holiday. Now, this one, I'll leave that, allow him to get away with a short answer.
No, but
The-
I can make it longer answer.
Okay, make the answer longer. Yeah, sure.
So, no, I'm done.
Right. So, no, I'll tell you why. When he does 5 a week, none of us sees 5 Amul topicals a week. We don't. That's because we're not supposed to see 5. So, we've got these wonderful conversations, and you read it in books and you read it in newspapers about the many Indias. Now, when Rahul sits, he thinks of the many Indias which you and I don't know. For example, did you know that there are topicals which are made only for South Bombay and not seen anywhere else in the country? That's it.
Not seen anywhere else in Bombay.
Not seen anywhere else in Bombay, only in South Bombay. Then there are topicals which are seen only in Tamil Nadu, not seen anywhere else in India. So because of this kind of micro-targeting which he does, which we'll explore why he does it, he needs to create 5 topicals. That's 250 ads. You knock off Saturdays and Sundays, and that's 1 ad a day. Actually, that's the math. It's 1 hour ad a day that he's doing, which is a little bizarre. So tell me, what are the many Indias you create ads for?
So basically, you guys are aware of this, that obviously North, South, East, West are 4 large sections of India. But within the South, you know how the Tamilian feels when he's called all you Saudis. So we're looking at Chennai and Kerala that don't speak Hindi, that don't like Bollywood. You've got Hyderabad that's divided, and you've got Karnataka, which has got a floating population. So there are 5, 6 Indias just there. And Chennai gets really upset when we do Hindi topics. Their point is we don't know. Hindi is not the national
Absolutely.
language. Yeah? Then you've got the whole Hindi belt, which we've all voted. So just within Bihar, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, you got that whole chakkar. Then it's actually madness, because language is so critical to this. The use of Hindi movies is so critical to this. The use of punning in a certain language. Even within English, there's certain sections where English becomes the only language, or English as we call it, which becomes the whole. The internet has got its own issue, because the internet within a day is a dead topic. So we sometimes have to choose a topic that goes to the internet that is only valid for 24 hours. Because it takes about 6 hours to go up on
Sorry,
the model.
I'll just interrupt there. So they create topicals for outdoor, for print, for digital, and social. So these are 4 broad areas.
Yeah.
So some are created only for social, and again you will see it only if you're supposed to see it. Yeah, that's how it is.
And also the interesting thing is that so I've been handling this account, this brand for 25 years, right?
How many of you are 25 years old? He's been handling it for 25 years old. Amazing. So you in the blue, he's been handling the brand for as long as you've been alive. Amazing.
So the interesting thing is that 25 years ago, there was no internet, right? So the hoardings, as we call them, still call them hoardings. The topicals were really up only on a hoarding. Today with the internet, there's a whole section of topics that trend, that never make it to a hoarding because they're not relevant to the common man.
Right.
Just now before I came in, there's something trending about this South Indian guy. So it's only
South Indian.
Correct, sorry.
Yeah.
It is no, but you know why? It came from Indonesia.
Right.
They're all praying for the South Indian guy. So suddenly I'm saying, now what is the topic? It will be only a internet topic, but I need to understand it. Because very often what happens, the newspaper gives me what the topic is, but I'll only know what people are thinking about it from the internet. So a topic that I have to decide whether it's true for a day, or will it last till the Friday, or will it start to come really alive on the Thursday?
Well,
And when-
give us an example of something true for the day, something that will stay alive for 4 or 5 days.
So obviously the World Cup, we play our first match on the 30th. I don't know what will happen in that match that will make it relevant for 5 days, or will it stay only for that day?
Right.
Theresa May went up yesterday, but it's got resonance for 5 days.
Right.
You know, whereas let's say an IPL match is only that day. If something happens, so when young Ashwin bunkered the ball, that is true for only that day, because then the next
There's a
day
new
there's
story.
a new story.
Right.
So it's that call one has to take, is that what is relevant. So in principle, the three of us who create this, we chat on Monday morning to figure out what are the 7 topics or the 10 or the 15 topics relevant or possibly relevant for the month,
Okay, now
for the week.
sorry, I'm going to interrupt you because, you know, I had pictured it that every Monday morning there'll be a team of 10 geniuses at daCunhal who will sit at the conference room, and you'll get Starbucks coffee and lovely cheese sandwiches, and they'll say, okay, what do we do this week? When I spoke to Rahul about it, I learned, no, that's not how it happens. There's his colleague Manish who sits in his house, and there's Rahul who sits in his house, and they read the newspapers and they talk to each other on the phone. They talk on the phone, not on FaceTime, not on all these cool things. They talk on the phone. Is that right, Rahul?
We only meet on birthdays.
So, worse, the artist who you saw doing the heavy lifting in that film, that guy lives in Borivali, and he starts his work after they've had their morning chat.
On the train, actually.
And he's doing it on the train. He starts his work on the train. By the time he reaches Nariman Point, he's half done.
It's quite funny, actually.
No, I don't understand this agency and this business. Anybody understands it, put your hands up. Anybody, put your hand up only if you understand this business. Nobody understands it, Rahul.
The Starbucks and the cheese sandwich is true.
Well, I go to his office and I ask for masala chai, which one of his older colleagues, his office support staff, he makes the most awesome masala chai. But if Rahul is there, then you get the cutting chai from downstairs. You know, so go only when Rahul's in the office. Yeah, Rahul.
But I tell you, this truly tells you about technology. Because there was a time when we had 15 guys around a table. Today, because of Wi-Fi, because of the internet, because of the availability of all this, we can literally do this, and which allows us to be so quick. If I waited for my team to show up, the copywriter would come at 12 o'clock, the art director would come at 12:30, the media guy would not show up. You know, it would just be... So here my point is, don't show up. Let me just call you.
Who wants to work for Rahul? Put up your hands. Anybody wants to work for Rahul? Nobody wants to work for Rahul. Okay, you got. Oh, okay, good.
I can't pay though. I can't pay.
Now, see, this is interesting because, you know, all of us have misconceptions about things we don't know. So my first misconception, like I said, was trying to imagine this morning meeting. The second misconception, which was fascinating, I said, every time Rahul makes an ad, you know, like with all our clients, the ad is finished, and you send it to a client, then the client, you know, has a few thoughts, and he says, you know, make this big, make this small, change this, or every once in a while, client says, I reject this ad, I don't like it. And then I learned that the story is completely different. So tell me, how does your brief work, Rahul?
So guys, we don't show it to the client.
Now, who wants to give him a hand?
So occasionally I get a phone call saying, Rahul, what is this about? And I'll say, it's okay. Just trust me. Yeah, okay. So look, the only way that, and this is now, we need to go back slightly. The campaign began 53 years ago, right? I mean, I didn't do it, but 53 years ago, my father got the account, right? And when he had this idea with this Amul girl, first decision was we cannot talk about butter, even though the account is butter, right? So the issue of issues that are trending at that time, issues that were popular, one thing that he did get was permission from Dr. Kurian, which is that I can't expose the work to a boardroom if I need to have this level of speed. Because if you go through a boardroom, by that time Theresa May would have taken back her resignation. Right? So this allows us to be able to genuinely think of the topic at 10 o'clock in the morning, and by 4 o'clock it's out. So they really do see it for the first time when the consumer sees it. It's an outstanding process.
Or lack of process.
Or lack of process where you have a client who says, man, if it ain't broke, why fix it? You know, and it's obviously over a period of time, guys, you will understand that because politics has become so tricky the way it is, there are certain topics we will stay away from, right? You won't see Baba Ramdev on a hoarding, right? You won't see extreme politics on a hoarding, which is why, because it's not funny anymore. And the whole purpose of the Amul Girl is to create content, to make you smile, or to cheer, or to celebrate. But other than that, we have pretty much a clear hand. Dr. Kurin told my father, he says, you do what you need to do, just don't get us into trouble. And in my case, not get into jail. You know?
So, this is the thing. There's so much learning. I got fascinated with Amul advertising as a consumer first. And then, when I later worked in advertising, it confused me. I said, how the hell can they churn out ads at this pace? I didn't even know at that time it was 5 per week. I thought it was maybe 1 or 2 a week, or maybe 1 every 2 weeks or whatever. But the pace at which they change, therefore, made me think of the process. Tomorrow, if any of you is attending, you'll see Fern Machado from Burger King, and they turn out creatives at pace because they have a process. Here, he's able to do things fast because there's no process. There, they turn things around fast because there is process. It's a fantastic process of 17 things you can do, 12 things you can't do, people who can approve at midnight, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and they've got a system, and that system allows this. This, I thought, is beautiful in its simplicity, that there is no brief, because he's on brand, and the relationship between Amul and him is one of complete and total trust. And there are a lot of lessons to learn from Amul, not just... Amul doesn't change their partners. So they worked with the same agencies from as long as Sodhi can remember. How many of you went for Sodhi's session in the morning? So all the partners that Sodhi worked with, Sodhi's boss worked with, Sodhi works with today. And it's not just advertising partners. It's partners in every damn area you can think of, the same partners stay. So tell me, what does it do for you as a entrepreneur to know that this is a permanent relationship?
I think the pressure is off.
What pressures?
Of looking over my shoulder that there's another agency wanting my business.
Right.
That the client himself is uncertain about me. That he's going to bounce an ad that I do. There's basically the feeling that, look, just go out there and do right for the brand. You know what you want. So even the other accounts we handle for Amul, there's very rarely a brief.
Right.
Because we've been just handling it for so long, we know what needs to be done. It's so much, it's a bit like, I feel like I'm working for MS Dhoni. They talked about how in CSK, everybody knows their roles. There are not millions of these meetings that go on. You know? So it simplifies even our lives basically, because once you know that a business is somewhat secure, and you know that a process is not there and secure, it allows you to go out there and create, and to sort of create knowing that what you create is directly what the consumer is going to see.
Right.
Because very often in a business relationship, there are so many levels to go through, so what the consumer finally sees isn't what you created in the first place. Here it's different.
Right. Anybody here from the media agency business or media buying business? Oh, amazing. Nobody. Okay. Just visualize, he's got, every time he creates a piece of work for Amul, you've got about, few hundred release orders that have to go out. Yeah? And that's an operational thing. The newspaper has to be told that there's a legal document which binds us to pay you, please release this ad. That's a release order. So does the outdoor agency, and so on. Now, so again, my mind started working because we are wired to what we know, to thinking, God, what a nightmare. He's got to finish the ad, then the media agency takes over, and the media agency's got to send out release orders. So I asked him, who sends a release order? And he said, he does. Yeah. So tell us that process.
But so that's the wonderful thing, that everybody who's worked on the account from our end has been with us for 25 years.
Right.
So from the creators to the media guys to the hoarding guys know that, of course, the early days used to have a thin little guy going up on a bamboo and painting the Amul girl. And depending on how thin or fat he was, it depended on how the girl would look. So this really beanie guy would make her look like really anorexic, right?
That's right.
And this fat guy, whatever, make her like this. So now there's no worries. Now we know that even a complicated background can be what you see is what you get. But even those guys, the hoarding guys, know that something has to go up. It's time bound because at the end of the day, topics literally and especially now compared to, you're right when you say that 3 years or 4 years ago, we did maybe 2 hoardings a week. Because basically we didn't have the wherewithal.
You didn't have all the content.
All the content. And we knew that if it went up at that speed, it would be outdated by the time it went up. This has to be, I mean, genuinely, what Sodhi Saab said in the morning about the hug between Rahul Gandhi and it went up within 2 hours of the hug.
Right.
But we knew that it would be trending in no time at all. So
And it would untrend also in no time.
in no time at all, because
Right.
it was that wink and all that. So the complicated thing was that he hugged and then winked later.
Right.
So we combined the wink and the hug.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Which what you can do in a
Right,
But
sure.
it was up in 3 hours, Anand. It was up
Right.
in 3 hours. So
So tell me, you're both the beneficiary and the loser because of digital. Earlier when Rahul created a piece of work, if somebody was upset, well, too bad. There's nothing you can do. You can, get into a bus and tell your neighbor, the guy sitting next to you, that's a terrible ad. Similarly, when you loved it, you told somebody, you told your wife, you told your husband. But now he's got a feedback loop because every single Amul creative goes up on Twitter first published, right?
Yeah.
On Twitter. So he's got a feedback loop which has got its own set of problems. So tell us about your feedback loop and how you deal with it.
So I've got a security detail behind me. I mean,
Right.
It depends on how you take it. In the sense that I'd like to believe that 21st century advertising is about a brand conversation, where in many ways they are going to respond, and they love it because I love it because there's so much invested in this campaign. Everybody feels that they can respond in any way they want to. I once made the fatal mistake during the first IPL of making the Amul girl into a cheerleader, which means a short skirt.
Right. Okay.
You can imagine the Twitter feedback on that how dare you, this is before Me Too, yeah. So, how dare you treat her like this? Within 5 minutes, she had a longer skirt. And we never gave her a short skirt again. But that's the level of feeling that people have towards this girl.
Right. They own the girl, you don't anymore.
Yeah.
The consumer owns Amul girl.
Yeah.
So, you've got very few examples across the world where, can you think of any, where a brand is held on to a mascot for 53 years?
Well, I wish Air India had,
Air India didn't. So, I can't think of any actually. Is there any?
The Michelin...
Not really. The muscle guy, he's no longer there. So tell me, why do you think it's worth it for Amul to carry on investing in the same idea? Why is it? Why is it important?
I guess because it's still working.
Right.
I think
Is it working? Is the Amul, yeah? Put up your hand and say yes, yeah? Yeah, it's working. It's working. So Rahul continues to handle the business. Yeah? So, yeah.
I think it goes back to the same principle, which is that too many marketers, too many ad agencies tend to get tired of their own advertising too quickly.
Right.
There is that feeling that everyone's seen it and no one's seen it. People don't look at your ad. I mean, in your previous panel discussion, no one puts on the TV to watch ads.
Right.
So the point eventually is that things really a campaign needs time. It needs time, especially in this day and age. You have to stay with it, yeah. You have to stay with it. And I realize that, which is why, for me, the most important audience right now is the millennial. It really is, because my big task is how do I keep this campaign relevant?
For another 50 years.
Another 50, and because today's young, they look at whatever we like as being old-fashioned.
Right.
Right? This campaign was created 55 years ago. Now it's up to me and generations after me to make sure that this campaign continues to stay young. And that is because of the choice of young topics.
Right.
And there the internet, is just an invaluable ally.
Right.
Because it just is so young and it's so trending and it's so in the moment that as an advertiser I can't help but be.
One of the things Mr. Sodhi touched upon, but I think he also had the the threat of the clock at him. So he just touched upon it. But there are a lot of PR agencies and image and reputation consultants who harass Amul, and I don't know whether they harass you, because they want their brand or their story or their star
Yeah.
featured in an Amul topical. How do you deal with that?
Actually, it's an interesting one that we did a series of books, right? That,
Right.
You know, and the first book.
By the way, any of you has got a copy of the Amul books? Yeah, those who don't, please get a copy. I was telling Rahul the other day, I know of very few brands which have created their advertising into books. One is Amul, one is Absolute. I don't think of very many brands which have succeeded with multiple books. Many brands have come up with one book, but multiple books, I know only these two. So tell me.
So it's interesting example. I went to interview Mr. Bachchan for the first book, and he said because he had literally on his staircase, he had Amul ads all the way up.
Mm.
And he said, it's interesting that this campaign is very meaningful to me because I know that you've also covered some of my terrible films.
Right.
And you've been quite nasty. I said, yeah. And his point was that, but it means a lot to me that the film was important enough for you to have covered it in the first place.
Right.
So that is a standard one. If you covered that guy's film, why not cover my film? If you covered that airline, why not cover my airline? That's just the way it is. But our point has always been we never promote. It's always if something is in trouble or something is out of trouble or something celebrating something, but it's never the Amul campaign is not a stage for somebody else.
Right. Rahul and the Amul team, they make it sound very simple. There was, any of you attended Dave Trott's session earlier today? Yeah, fantastic. So, Dave Trott once told me the best way to create popular advertising is to take from popular culture and return to popular culture. That's it. You think it's what Beatles did. All their songs they took from popular culture and they played it back to the public. It became popular culture once again. And that's what you're doing,
Yeah.
Every day you're robbing from popular culture.
Yeah.
You see something and you say, hey, people are talking about this, so let me talk about this.
Yeah.
It's amazing simplicity, but for that, tell me the process in the morning which gets you to decide what is popular culture of the moment of the day.
So, if I say to myself, I'm going to wake up on a Monday morning, the table of possible contents are under 5 categories. So clearly Bollywood is one, clearly politics is one, clearly television and film in that sense, sport, cricket and people, just personalities. We then take the call which of these 5 is popular and maybe all 5 are popular.
Right.
It then becomes a question of within sport, what is it? Let's wait. So even just take this week, we'll wait for the World Cup to kick in.
Right.
Let's wait for our first game to see how we are doing, who's playing well, whatever. Is there any big film that's been launched? We can't launch on the first day. It'll seem like we're promoting the film.
Right.
So if you get a really bad review, then that becomes interesting for us.
Right.
Because eventually, if a certain character is being made fun of, then the girl can start to talk about that.
Right.
Politics right now is outstanding.
Right.
Because we're just waiting to see once the swearing in happens, who becomes chief minister. That becomes interesting for us to become local in terms of topics. So it's really that. It's really a question of what do we feel is vital enough, and what do we feel isn't just going to stay at the level of that's okay. We can't sit on the fence. There has
Right.
to be a point of view, and it has to be a point of view of the way people are thinking. So that requires a bit of time also for us to understand that which way is the thought process going to be.
Right. And in the digital world, how much do consumers tell you, when you make a, holding out of this constantly?
Constantly. And very often I may have missed something.
Right.
So it's quite how about, what if, think about it. That's greatly useful in terms of, because we're not reading every newspaper.
Right.
And what's very useful for me is,
Hey, if you notice, he's used the word newspaper but 5 times today in this 43 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of newspapers he talks about. And he does actually get the physical paper
Yeah.
and read that every morning and not on a smartphone.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So anyway, carry on. So you can't read all the papers.
and so therefore, we don't know what's happening in Chennai, for example.
Right. So what is your research
So
look?
we have a team of people in Chennai who will tell us which I don't know, Chennai is Chollywood, or I don't know what it's called.
Collywood.
Is it Collywood?
Yeah.
Tolly is Calcutta, no?
Col-
Tolly.
Okay, whatever. Chennai wood.
Some wood, yeah.
Chennai wood.
So we wait, so we get a sense from them also that this film star's daughter's getting married. It's 500 crores, this wedding. That's the topic, because it
Right.
will only run in
Chennai.
In Chennai.
Right. And what about the loop of people writing to Amul Co-op,
Yeah.
to the head office itself, and then coming back to you?
No, never.
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 No, that's the point. You see, the
Never.
client never ever interferes in the editorial content.
Never.
And that's a spectacular lesson for lots of clients. Nothing. However, when you screw up, when you do a bad ad, while Amul says we are part of, Amul says we are a family and it doesn't matter. Is that right? Rephrase that.
So guys, I've got to tell you a joke, yeah? Please.
Yeah, please.
I'll just use one bad word, it's okay, right?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, I'll try and... So, this is 1998, right? 1998, you guys have heard of a guy called Jagmohan Dalmia? The late
Yes.
Jagmohan Dalmia. So, 1998, I was younger.
Oh, I was older. So,
A lot of Botox guys. So, I was younger, much more fearless, never thought about any consequence, because I'd been told, go for it. Yeah. So, Jagmohan Dalmia was slightly... His reputation was a bit tricky, right? There was some talk of him eating up BCCI money and so whatever. We were gutsy enough or stupid enough. There was a hoarding outside his office in Calcutta. And we ran a hoarding where, you know, the symbol of see no evil, hear no evil. So we had 3 monkeys. We had Dalmia
right.
doing a see no, feel no, hear no. And we said, Dalmia kuch kala hai.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next morning, the guy saw it, right? Now, he made the fatal mistake. Obviously, if he wanted to sue somebody, right? So, he should have sued us or sued the agency. He decided to screw Dr. Kurian personally and sue him for 500 crores. Now, 2 things to be noted here. One is, when you sue somebody for defamation, you have to put 10% down of what you're suing.
Correct. Yeah.
So the court said, dude, 50 crores. Okay, so that was the first one. So Dr. Kurian's office calling me, desperate, whatever, what have you done, all this stuff going on. He called me and said, dear boy, what is this? So I said, he's saying, who's this? So I said, he said, okay, and what have you done? I said, this is what we've done. He said, good. I said, what should I do? Should I take it down? He said, yes, take it down. But what I'd like you to do is paint another hoarding. See no evil, whatever, this thing, and do a 4th one of a guy holding his balls.
Really?
Yeah. Nice. It's a joke, guys. But he really said that. He really said that was the guts of the man. He said that, I don't care. Of course, Dalmia ran away because 50 crores and all of that.
Yeah.
But that's gutsy, where a man is telling you, just do it. You know, don't be bothered by what people are going to say. I wouldn't do it today, but I'm saying there was a point in time when that was the freedom. And he stood by us. It was not like he said, guys, now you please deal with it. I warned you. Stuck with it.
Right. So tell me, we are running out of time, so what we're going to do is just kind of wrap up. Is there another client in the country like Amul? Do you think there is another client?
I wish there was, you know.
No, really, seriously. Is there remotely a chance of a client behaving like Amul behaves? Yes. So, you know, while we started off saying that Rahul DACUNHA cannot take a holiday, which he really can't, even now, he can't switch off. He's still wired 24/7. But the point is, I think he's got a client who doesn't check his work, doesn't ever call for a pitch, looks the other way when there's a screw up. And I think, you know, if I were him and I lost a little sleep, I'll be okay with it. Thank you so much, Rahul.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.